Chapter 2, we will be going through contract law, which are just terms that make a contract legally binding, different types of contracts. So let's get right into it. So, in order for any contract to exist, there has to be four elements of a contract to make it legally binding. Number one, an agreement. So, in order for a contract to be set forth, there has to be an agreement. Now, an agreement, there's two parts to it. There is an offer by one party, and there must be acceptance by the other party in order for there to be an agreement. For example, in insurance, when the application is submitted to the company, so an applicant applies for life insurance to the company, that's the offer saying, "Hey, I'd like to be covered for 250,000 for $50 a month." Hypothetical, right? $50 a month. That is an offer. Now, acceptance is going to take place when the company issues a policy, meaning you were approved, now you have life insurance. So now an offer was submitted, that offer was accepted, so now we have an agreement. Okay, so that's the first element of a contract. The second one is consideration. So, consideration is yes, a company's promise to pay a claim, but by definition, and what you should know for the test is consideration is both parties giving something of value. So, both parties giving something of value. Who are the both parties? There's always going to be two parties involved in insurance. There's going to be the insurer with an R at the end, which is the company, and the insured with the D at the end. That is the person that's being covered. So, what are both parties giving of value? So, the insurance insurer, right, the insurance company, what they're giving of value is the promise to pay if the person passes away. Now, what is the insured, the person that's being covered? What are they giving of value? They're giving, they're making sure that they're making their premium payments and that they're being honest on the application for insurance. So, insured is being honest and paying their premium. Insurer is saying, hey, if you pass away, we're going to pay out the death claim. Okay. Now we have consideration. Both parties are giving something of value. Next, the third are competent parties. So, in order for a contract to be set forth, there has to be competent parties involved as well. So, here you see they cannot be minors, they cannot be intoxicated, and that they cannot be mentally incompetent. Okay. Another way of putting this that you might see on the test is they must be of legal age, not under the influence of alcohol or drugs, right? So not intoxicated, and they must be mentally competent to understand the contract. So what it says here, but just the opposite. So a competent party, once again, a competent party, number one, must be of legal age, meaning they have to be 18 years or over. They cannot be intoxicated, so not under the use of alcohol or drugs, and they must be mentally competent to understand the contract, meaning they have to be able to understand everything that's taking place in that contract. Now, on the test, you may get a question that will say, so all of the following are considered competent parties except, and you're going to have A, legal age, B, not under the influence of alcohol or drugs, C, mentally competent, or D, legally competent. And the correct answer there would be D. Because what is legally competent? That makes no sense. Mentally competent, yes, right? Because you have to be able to mentally understand what's being in the contract. But legally competent, that doesn't exist, does not make sense. So the correct answer, if that question were to pop up, is legally competent because it is not one of those three true competent parties. Now, The fourth element, last one of the four, is that there must be legal purpose in a contract. So what legal purpose is, it's made up of two parts, and we covered this in chapter one. So legal purpose is made up of insurable interest. So meaning I have an interest in insuring that person. So me putting life insurance on my mom or a business partner, for example, that's insurable interest, but there must also be insurable interest and consent. So when there is insurable interest and consent, now we have legal purpose. So four elements of a contract there. Number one, agreement. Number two, consideration. Number three, competent parties. Number four, legal purpose. Okay. Now we're going to dive into three different types of insurance contracts that are out there. The first is what is known as a unilateral contract. So unilateral, if we just split those words into two, you think the word uni, you and I, think of unity or think of united. If we are speaking of unity or united, that means one, right? We're coming together as one. We're united as one. And then the term lateral just means side. So a unilateral contract is, in other words, a one-sided contract. And what that means is that only one party has to make a legally enforceable promise. So, meaning once, let's say, individual passes away, now the contract is considered unilateral. Just think of it this way. It's unilateral, meaning now the company has to pay out the death benefit. The insured doesn't have to keep paying their monthly premiums because they're not here anymore, right? They passed away. So just think now it's one-sided, meaning the company now has to pay out the death benefit. Okay. So key there, just remember, unilateral is a one-sided contract. Next is a contract of adhesion. So a contract of adhesion, if you look at the word adhesion, think of adhesive, which if you think of something that's adhesive, it's something that's sticky. Okay, think of it like glue. So a contract of adhesion, in other words, it is offered on a take it or leave it basis. So right, you apply for insurance, you make an offer, the company will accept you, but if there's some health issues, they're going to say, hey, well, it's going to have to be a little bit more than we originally had quoted you for because of high blood pressure, because of X, Y, and Z. The company is going to come back and say, okay, well, this is what we're offering you coverage. This is how much it's going to be monthly. Take it or leave it. Do you want it or not? We're not going to sit here and negotiate. It's a take it or leave it offer. So, in other words, what does that have to do with adhesion, adhesive, sticky, something that's glue? Just think of it. The company's saying, are you going to stick with us or not? Take it or leave it. Okay. Are you going to stick with us or not? Take it or leave it. We're not going to sit and negotiate. Okay. Now, next is an aleatory contract. So, an aleatory contract is a type of contract where there will always be an uneven or unequal exchange of money. So every single life insurance contract is considered an aleatory contract. Why? Because there will always be an unequal exchange of amounts or value. Okay. So actually, let's switch this. So not an unequal exchange of money, but an unequal exchange of values or amounts. Okay. Because that you're more prone to seeing that on the test. An unequal exchange of amounts or an unequal exchange of value. Now, what that does and why that is also is an example of that is let's say you're paying $50 a month for your life insurance. In a matter of a year, In a year, $50 a month times 12 months will be roughly about $600. So if you think, okay, $600 a year in 10 years, that'll be $6,000. In 20 years, that'll be $12,000. In 30 years, that'll be a total of $18,000. But let's say your life insurance coverage is 250,000. So think 250,000 that the company's going to pay out, and all you paid over the course of those 30 years of having the policy is a total of 18,000. So there's an unequal exchange of values, right? You're paying only 18, but then if the person passes away, Primerica is going to pay 250. It's unequal, okay? So that is what an aleatory contract is. There will always be an unequal exchange of values or amounts. Continuing on are things not required in a contract. So these next couple of things are not required in the contract, meaning it does not have to be written in the policy. So, example, the two most important ones is number one, the insurer's financial rating will not be listed in the contract. It will not be listed on the policy. And what is the insurer's financial rating? So every company out there has a financial rating. If you think of a restaurant, for example, you walk into a restaurant or you're going, a fast food place, for example, to get something to eat, a Subway or, Jersey Mike's. On the window, they have a grade, a food grade based on their cleanliness from the health department. A, B, typically they have a C, they're not in business, right? But they have an A. That's where you want to go eat because hey, it's clean. Companies have also a rating, but it's a financial rating. So just based on different factors, but they'll have a financial rating. Primerica rated A plus. Other companies not rated A plus. But the state does not require the company to put that financial rating in their policy. Because let's say, for example, you get insurance with XYZ company, you get your policy, you open your policy, and first thing you see is it says financial rating C. How comfortable would you feel doing business with a company that has a financial rating of a C? You wouldn't, right? So, for that reason, and probably other reasons as well, the state does not require companies to list or put their financial rating in the contract, in the policy. Okay. Number two is that notarization for proof of surrender is not required as well. So, when we talk about proof of surrender, what this means is when you're going to surrender a policy. And when you surrender a policy, it's typically policies that have a savings with it, cash value. That's what you're surrendering. You're surrendering the policy so that you can take the cash value, the savings portion of it, which we'll get into in chapter 4. But notarization for proof of surrender is not required. So what that means is, for example, let's say I had one of these types of policies where it's a whole life or a universal life insurance policy, where it has a savings component, where it has cash value. I do not have to go to a notary to get my cancellation or surrender paperwork notarized by them to then send to the company. That is not required. All I do is just sign the paper, send it back to the company, and that is my proof of surrender, right? That I am stating that I do not want to keep the policy and I want to pull out whatever money I have in that savings. Notarization is not required. Number three is the probability of loss. So probability of loss will also not be stated in the contract. Obviously, we all know that the probability of loss, meaning death, is always there. So that is not going to be written in the contract. And the equal consideration of both parties also will not be stated in there, meaning both parties are giving something of value. The person's paying their premium, the company's going to pay the claim if the person passes away. That's just the nature of what the insurance contract is. So that will not be written in there. Okay. Now, couple legal terms here. So words that mean cancel. So obviously the word cancel means you're just ending the policy, right? You're canceling it. Rescind or rescission. So this word may be written either or. Rescind or rescission, it means exactly the same thing. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and cover it down here because it pops up down here again. And I'm going to go through the next couple of words just so rescission down here makes sense. But the next term is representation. So representation, what the term representation means is that it is a statement believed to be true to the best of one's knowledge. Okay. So a representation is a statement that is believed to be true to the best of one's knowledge. For example, let's say I'm sitting down with you and I'm applying for life insurance with you. You ask me, "Hey, Kefren, do you have any health issues? Do you have high blood pressure? Do you have, diabetes?" I tell you no. 2 weeks later, I go to the doctor. Doctor tells me, "Hey, Kefren, you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes." Technically, when I sat down with you 2 weeks prior, as far as I knew, I did not have high blood pressure. I did not have diabetes. So that would be considered a representation because it was a statement that I made that I believed was true to the best of my knowledge, as far as I knew. Okay. That's what a representation is. Now, a misrepresentation, so I'm going to down here. A misrepresentation is a lie. Okay, this is you asking me if I have high blood pressure, and I tell you just straight up, I don't, but I know I do. Okay, that would be a lie or an untrue statement. Okay, now next is a warranty. So a warranty is an absolute truth. In other words, a statement guaranteed to be true. So a warranty is a statement that is guaranteed to be true. So this just think when you buy a new phone or let's say a new car, they give you a 3-year, 30,000-mile warranty, meaning if anything happens with the car mechanically, you can take it back before the 3 years or before the 30,000 miles, and they will fix it, no questions asked. Why? Because it's under warranty. So, in other words, it's guaranteed to be fixed. Here, it's guaranteed to be true. Okay. Next is the term concealment. So, concealment is the intentional withholding of a material fact. So, concealing information that is a known fact. An example, let's say I'm sitting with you, I'm applying for insurance, and you ask me if I have cancer. I tell you, no, I don't. But I actually go down to Mexico and I get treatment for cancer. I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't go to the doctor in the US, so they have no records of me here, but I go to the doctor in Mexico. They have everything over there. There's no way they're going to get it because it's a different country. But I know for a fact that I have it, right? So that would be me concealing information. I'm intentionally withholding a material fact or material information that should be given. That is concealment. So now, what does this have to do with rescission? So if the individual makes a misrepresentation, meaning they're not truthful, or they conceal information, then the injured party, okay, you might see that on the test, the injured party, meaning the party that was lied to. Remember, there's always two parties, insurer and insured, but the injured party, they are entitled to rescind the contract, meaning they can cancel the policy. Okay. Now, it isn't always the insurer, it can be either or. It can be the insurer or the insured that has the right to rescind a contract. Okay. So rescind the contract, right? They can cancel it because someone was being untruthful to them. Next is premium. So premium, and we've gone through this word a couple times already, but premium is just another word for payment. Okay. In insurance, we don't say your monthly payment that you're making, it's your monthly premium. Now, what that premium payment per what it is the amount the insurer pays per unit of coverage. So it is the amount the insured is going to pay per unit of coverage. So one unit, so in insurance, one unit equals $1,000 of coverage. So for example, if you're going to do 250 units, that means you're going to have $250,000 of coverage. And that is what they're going to use to calculate what your premium is going to be. Okay. And then lastly, just finishing up here, chapter two, insurance does not. So insurance does not eliminate fraudulent risk. So just because you have insurance doesn't mean that it's going to eliminate fraudulent loss, right? Where people submit claims that may not be truthful. And because you have insurance, that also does not eliminate risk. Just because a person purchases auto insurance does not mean that they're going to eliminate the risk of getting into a car accident. Or just because the individual purchases life insurance doesn't mean that the risk of dying isn't there anymore. That's always going to be there. Okay. So remember, insurance does not eliminate risk and it does not eliminate fraudulent loss. Okay. So that is chapter two, which is contract law. Once again, please go back, review as much as possible, become as familiar as you can with each term to know it to the best of your abilities.